Hello, welcome to 200. It's great to see you, or I should say to be seen by you. I can't see you, but I hope to see you. And you can see me during, I suppose, my Jimmy Buffett phase of a few years ago. I've outgrown it. Looking forward to a great semester with you, and what I would like to do in this video, I want to keep it as brief as possible because you're going to be watching plenty more videos throughout the semester, but it is necessary that we go over the syllabus and go over some of the information that will be very important in your success in the course. So let's do that. Okay, so the title of the course, Literary Study, Research, and Criticism, the title is accurate. The title of this asynchronous course. We're going to be doing paying some attention to literary research. We're going to be paying some attention to literary criticism as well, which are two independent topics. We're also going to be paying some attention to the first term in that phrase, literary study, the literary. And we're even going to begin by moving outside of the literary to the larger humanities enterprise, as you will see in our very first discussion board topic. So that's what you have ahead of you. What do we mean by literary research? What do we mean by literary criticism? What do we mean by quote unquote the literary? Well, all of that will become a little bit clearer as the course unfolds. But this is largely an introduction to the major. Think of it that way. It's a gateway course that, with the gate wide open, that tries to give you a little bit of sense of what's on the other side of the gate. Even though, as I know, several of you have been inside the gate for quite a while. You've taken a bunch of English classes already and are fulfilling the requirement of this course, taking this course, which is required for the English major, and I'm aware of that, but this will be just a little refresher for those of you who are already roaming around the fair, okay? So let's get down to business with what's required in the way of texts, for example. I'm not going to say much about it. I'm just going to call your attention to what's here on this page, here in the syllabus. The required texts, right? The Norton Introduction to Literature, the shorter edition. Hey, if you get the longer edition, no problem. If you get the portable edition, no big deal either. You will see I've assigned the 13th edition, okay, of the Norton Introduction to Literature. If you end up with the 14th edition, that shouldn't be a big problem because it's kind of hard to get the 13th edition, harder than it used to be because they have this new edition out, right? And they're trying to get people to buy it. Let's say you have a roommate or a friend or maybe even a member of your family who has a copy of the Norton Introduction to Literature, and it's the 12th edition, which precedes the 13th edition. That should also work, okay? But what you're going to want to do is make sure that I know when something that is in the book, this is especially those of you who will have the 12th edition, if there's something that I've assigned from the 13th, okay, that you don't have access to. I've caught all of those instances with respect to the 14th edition. But if you have a different edition, an earlier edition, you know, rather than make you go out and buy a new one, I'm going to suggest that you just let me know if something's not there, and I'll see what I can do about getting it posted. Okay? Because I have access to all of these editions and can do some supplementing if necessary. So get that book as soon as you can. I've designed the syllabus in such a way, or designed the schedule in such a way that you can take a week or so to get it without penalty, because in fact I have copies of the various readings that will be made available to you online. I hope that the links, I'm not looking at the schedule right now. I say I hope and trust. In fact, I recall that I have posted those links actually in the schedule. I believe I have. But you'll see, for example, that there's a link below that's posted here. I'll also try to post that on the schedule itself at the proper time, okay? And I'm talking about is, you will know something about this when I say schedule. Soon enough, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say the granular schedule. Modular, granular schedule, we'll talk about that here in a few moments, and how that's different from the schematic schedule, as I call it, which lays out the whole course of the semester in stark schematic terms, letting you know when the papers are due, and what is due, when it's due, throughout the entire course of the semester, okay? So the big thing to do right away, as I think you already know because I've sent you a few messages on this topic, is to get that Norton Introduction to Literature. Take steps, if you haven't already, this afternoon to get a copy of that because you're going to need it, okay? And then there's this B, if you will see. C, look down to B, M.H. Abrams and Jeffrey Galt Harfman, A Glossary of Literary Terms, 9th edition, or a later edition. Well, I'm of two minds about this. It's expensive. If you, if you have an earlier edition of this as well, you have access to one. I'm providing access to one, as a matter of fact. Okay, you should be able to get by with that. And I say at the bottom of this information drawer, that you'll find it. It's in the information amidst the different little drawers, sub drawers in the information drawer. Okay, or in the information. Now that we're in what's called Blackboard Ultra as opposed to Blackboard Vanilla, as some people call it, or Blackboard Original, which we are now in as a university. We've made the transition. This may not be something you even know what I'm talking about, but Blackboard might look a little bit different to you now than it did, different from how it appeared even as late as last semester. Okay, if it does, you'll see what I'm talking about when I say that we don't really speak as much of drawers and subdrawers. There isn't as much embedding of files and whatnot. So anyway, find a file, find the information file, and you will find inside that file embedded in, let's call it a subdrawer of that drawer, if we want to use the old terminology, you'll find a copy of the glossary, A Glossary of Literary Terms. It's an earlier edition, but I think you can get by with it. Okay? Or go out and buy a brand spanking new copy of the latest edition, which is a wonderful thing to have on your desk throughout your English major. You will be making use of it. And it's a very good idea to have a copy of this around on your desk as an English major. Then I say tentatively scheduled, you see there under C. And this is more than merely tentatively scheduled by this time in the semester. This is, in fact, firmly scheduled. We're going to be reading the Metamorphoses in translation, perforce, okay, necessarily, which is a wonderful Franz Kafka novel that perhaps even a few of you have read before or are familiar with, okay? So this is going to be a lot of fun for us, and that's the face of Kafka, three faces of Kafka, as a matter of fact, as opposed to three faces of Eve, three faces of Kafka that you just saw in the introductory panel of this PowerPoint video. All right, so we're going to be reading Kafka. It wouldn't hurt you to go and get your own copy of this, but I provided one that the University of Pennsylvania has made available as a PDF in its library. So feel free to take this Shocking Books 1971 edition and use it as your own. I suggest that you download it, that you print it out, and work with a hard copy. I've always found that to be a lot better, okay, than kind of analysis you'll be doing. A lot handier than having to look through a file and scroll around in a file when you're actually writing something on Kafka, which you will be doing. Okay, so there's that. Then as a recommended text, the good old-fashioned favorite MLA handbook, in this case the 8th edition, they might even have a 9th out now, right? I'm going to recommend that you buy that and have that on your desk as an English major. You will be consulting it throughout your career. But it's a little redundant with respect to the kind of stuff we're going to be doing in the research corner of things. Ultimately it's not redundant. Ultimately it is the rule book, but you can get by just fine with the material in the back of the Norton Introduction to Literature Shorter Edition, which paraphrases a lot of very handy material taken from the MLA handbook. Okay, so you don't absolutely need to buy this. I recommend it. As English majors, it's a good idea to have a copy of this on your desk right alongside your glossary of literary terms. Okay, the DRC statement regarding accommodations, I'm going to ask you to read that on your own and let me know if we need to arrange something. You want to contact the Disability Resource Center very early on in the semester. Don't wait. Take care of this right away. They will contact me and then I will be in touch with you and we'll work something out. Okay, so have a look at that. There are a couple of other items, not here on this screen in this moment, but on the syllabus, as you'll find the syllabus in the actual drawer, okay, in the Blackboard drawer. And I want you to have a look at those as well. One of them has to do with, as a matter of fact, both of them have to do with academic fraud, academic honesty, and with keeping everything kosher, okay, in the age of AI, right, and Chat GPT. So have a look at those two because they list important course policies that will govern our procedure going forward. AI, don't use it. It's a simple rule. Okay, so moving on. Now, if you have any questions about any of this material that I'm covering here rather rapidly, in order to keep this video short, brief, and of course you could always rewatch it, maybe before you ask that question to see whether you just missed what it was that I might have said, do not hesitate for a moment to send me an email message, okay? You can find my email address on the syllabus and send me an email message and we will take care of whatever it is that's concerning you. Okay. So here's coursework. This is always an important part of any introduction to a course, isn't it? Find out what you actually have to do. Well, we have, as you can see here, broken down into 6 little items. We have 6 different kinds of material that you'll be doing. Okay. The first one, the weekly discussion board participation. Then some quizzes that I'll talk about here in a moment. And then 2 one-page assignments, 1 to 1.5-page assignments which will be due on various Saturdays and Sundays, or 2 Saturdays, 2 Sundays. And then a short literary analysis, a squib, which becomes a squib plus eventually. So that's really 2 papers for that final 15%, which are developed from the 1 and 1/2-page assignments. I'll get back to this in a moment. And then a couple of exams, a midterm exam and a final examination. Let's go back to the weekly discussion board participation, okay, which is worth a lot, isn't it? 25%? That's a lot. This is the weekly business of the course. And as you can tell, I think it's very important that it be done and it be done well, because I'm giving, in fact, 25% credit for the semester, okay, of your final, towards your final grade. I'm giving, I could say, you're earning, certainly that 25% grade will be based upon what you do in these discussion boards, right? And, I give you a little bit of a pep talk about the discussion board here in this prose piece right here. I want to call your attention to the weekly routine, which dropped down about 3 lines. Our weekly routine, most weeks, not every week, will be as follows. By Sunday afternoon at 5 p.m., I'll have posted a few questions, usually 3 of them, and I will begin posting these typically Friday afternoon at noon. Okay, for any early birds who want to get busy, you get the reading done, because you have to get the reading done before you can actually do these discussion boards. For obvious reasons, you have to get the reading done for that week first. But routinely, a Sunday afternoon by 5 o'clock, you'll have all 3 questions posted, and you can choose just one of the 3. If you want to do more than one, that's fine, but you are, in fact, asked to do just one, quality over quantity. Choose one and do a wonderful job on it rather than choose 2 and do a partial job on the 2. You choose just one from the 3, and you write, and this is the important part of what I have to say about the discussion boards, you write a substantive, as I say it. In other words, it's just full of good content. 1-paragraph response by Tuesday at 5 p.m. What does that mean? Well, I'll actually have a word, maybe a word to say about that down below when we get to the granular schedule, which is on the next panel, right? But the gist of it is that you are being asked to write, maybe 5 sentences. This is a substantial paragraph that will be necessary for you to write. And I say substantive in that it's got this argumentative substance to it. So what it will involve is you're, in fact, reading the text, okay, pointedly, because in fact I will have asked you a question that points you towards certain passages or asked you to find those passages and point us readers towards them. You will find those passages and you will argue about them, okay, make claims about them and offer them as evidence in support of these claims. And you have a little argument, okay, a little 1-paragraph argument. So it's almost as though you have a paper due for the weekly routine here every week, but it's a very brief paper. It's a 1-paragraph paper, but I want you to think of it almost as a paper due. That's how well I'd like you to do on these things. I want them to be written in good, clean sentences, and I want you to write a developing paragraph that argues a point. You would be surprised just what good this does you over the course of a semester when you get in the habit of writing these things up, okay? It's the thing that we can do that maybe a lot of people in chemistry are not as good at doing. All right. We learn how to do this in a class like this and in a major like this. So take this seriously because it is worth 25%, right? The 25% is based upon really two different paragraphs. The first one is that substantial substantive one paragraph. You'll see it typically labeled answer/response when I talk about it. And this is in response to my prompts. And then what I would like you to do, and that's due typically Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, depending on the week, sometimes even later. It all depends on the particular week, right? Due by 5 o'clock. Then by Thursday of that same week, or Friday or Saturday, but later in the week, what I ask you to do, typically also by 5 p.m., is write a comment on one of your classmates' responses, answers/responses. Okay? So you have two things to write every week as part of the discussion board. You've got the original answer/response, which you will write not knowing what other people have to say about that particular answer, that particular prompt. And then everything will become public and you will have a chance to comment on what one of your fellow students has written. Now, by the way, I would want the comment to be a real comment, right? A constructively critical one, as I put it here. It can be a celebration, right, that furthers the point made by your fellow classmate, but it has to be one that goes back to the evidence in the work and quotes in support. So it too should be one which is engaged not just with the the fellow student who has written an answer response, but also engaged with the literary text about which that fellow student is talking. And you go back and you say, you know, you made a good point. Here's a way to make it even better. Or you say, hey, you know, I don't quite agree with what you're saying. Here's why. Look at this bit of evidence. And you write it up, and it's 3 or 4 sentences. It's not as substantial as the answer response. It can be briefer, right? But it is substantive in that it quotes material, makes a substantive case for some point that you're making that is prompted by, this time not by me, but by one of your classmates, what one of your classmates has had to say. Okay, so you'll get in the habit of doing this routine, this weekly routine, usually weekly. Sometimes we'll take a week off because we're doing the midterm or what have you, or maybe we have a paper due. You'll get in the habit of doing this very quickly, and I think it'll be comfortable for you. There's still a challenge, comfortable with respect to the routine and knowing what's expected of you, I think very early on. So I won't say any more about that right now. That's 25% of the final grade. Now, there's a 15% component if you look at number 2, and these are these annoying reading quizzes that I give, all right? They cover the material assigned for that day plus all material read since the last quiz. So if you look at the schedule, now it's hard for you to look at the schedule right now because it's on the next plate, but the schedule, this is the granular schedule, right, that I'm talking about, which is the week. I give this out weekly. Sometimes this one is a bi-weekly one. It's for 2 weeks. Okay, and sometimes that will happen. It will cover 2 weeks instead of 1 week, but you'll typically get a new one every week at the top of the module for that week. Okay, so this is, again, you're going to get into the routine very quickly and you'll see what I'm talking about, right? Well, these quizzes are listed on the schedule, the granular schedule. You'll see what day they are due. They tend to be due, it really depends on the week. They tend to be due towards the end of the week. Right? After you've done your discussion board, we then turn to the quiz portion of that week, that modular week, right? So the quizzes tend to be due. I mean, I will sometimes make them due before the comments are due. They tend to be due on the Thursday or Friday of that week. Especially if it's a Tuesday that I ask you to hand in your answer response, and then a Thursday that you have due by 5 p.m. The comment, then the earliest I would ever make you do the quiz would be, I'd have you hand it in by Thursday at midnight. Often I would give you until Friday at noon, okay, just to give you a sense of what the routine is going to be like. Now, what's going to be on these quizzes? As I say here, usually the quizzes will offer short answer questions and identifications, and that's accurate. And in fact, the best way, instead of me making a bunch of abstract statements about the quizzes and what they're about, the best way for you to get a sense of what they're about is to look at the practice quiz or the mock quiz, which actually was one of the quizzes in a previous semester, which is available. I've made available a copy of it, right, in the information bag drawer it's a little subdrawer towards the bottom of that folder, which is marked information. So you can find it down there, have a look at it, and you'll get a sense of the kind of thing that is going to be asked on these quizzes. So that's what I recommend that you do rather than have me make a bunch of statements, which would all be very vague, just necessarily, right? Until you've read something and I can talk about it, right, in concrete detail. It's very difficult to describe exactly what these quizzes will look like, but they will, for example, in a play or a piece of fiction, it will be plot points, it'll be information, it might be a little bit of, it has to do with setting maybe. It might be a question that has to do with, in some cases maybe some of the implications of what's going on in the story, but it will typically be geared towards determining that you've actually done the reading, as opposed to quizzing you on like the perspicacity of your response to the reading. It's more like, have you done the reading? That's what's quizzed, right? That's what you get quizzed on. So if you do the reading, as I trust you will do, you will be doing very well on these quizzes. And I've had classes in which, like 70% of the people in the class have gotten 90 or above on the quiz grade. And I love it when that happens. So let's have that happen this semester as well. Okay? And again, you may have a little bit of a mysterious sense of what's going on here with these quizzes. Just have a look at the schedule. Also have a look at that practice quiz or that, model quiz or an example of a quiz, and I think you'll get a much firmer sense of what exactly is going to be required of you. Okay, notice how, the quizzes can be kind of forgiving. The two lowest quiz grades that you get, I will drop, okay? And I'll just count your best. Let's say I give 12 quizzes over the course of the semester. Sometimes I'll give fewer. And I think there have been a couple of occasions where I've given more, but let's say it's 12. As I say, above 12 or so. Let's say I give 12. What that means is your best 10 will count, all right? So I hope that is a little reassuring as well. So you get to do poorly on 2, or not as well on 2, or do magnificently on those 2 as well. And who knows, maybe you get a little bit of extra credit at the end of the semester. As a matter of fact, I might as well tell you I do. I do give a little extra credit at the end of the semester for people who have maybe taken every quiz, even after they've done perfectly on 10 of them. And I also, something else is often there'll be like 6 questions on a quiz, and I'll only count the top 5. You get a perfect score if you get 5 of them right. But I'll go ahead and count if you do the 6th, which you, of course, should do. Attempt the 6th question as well. Let's say you get 2 points on that. Usually these quizzes are worth 10 points. I'll count a 12. If you have 10 points in addition to those 2, I'll give you a 12 for the quiz and bank it, okay, along with other excess points that you may have earned on previous quizzes. At the end of the semester, I've had people with like 17 extra points, which when it comes time to like decide what to do with a grade that's borderline, hey, it makes it really easy for me to just bump it up to the next highest grade. I feel like I'm being perfectly fair to a student who has done so well in the quizzes. Okay? So take the quizzes seriously as well. They can really be a great boost to one's grade at the end of the semester. They can also be a bane to one if they're not taken seriously, and you can do fairly well on other items and yet not do that well in the course, not as well in the course as you might otherwise have done, because in fact there's an indication that you weren't really keeping up with the reading, which the quizzes are designed to test. Okay, and as a final note, please do not ask me to make up a quiz. That's what the dropping the 2 lowest grades is all about, all right? Is if you miss a quiz, that would be one of the ones that I would drop. And I do this because it's just simply impractical. You would be surprised how long it takes me to make one of those quizzes up. And I would be, if I were making up a new quiz every time someone missed a quiz, and allowing the student to make up the quiz, I would be spending hours and hours and hours every week doing that rather than spending time, which I think would be spending my time more wisely, let us say, with respect to your education. So in fact, that's the way we're going to do it. There's a little bit of squish built in there, isn't there? I'll drop the 2 lowest grades. You miss a quiz, that's going to be one of them, right? So what you don't want to do, absolutely, is miss 3 quizzes, right? And I've had students do this. I've had students miss 4 and 5 quizzes, and that really cuts into the grade. pretty severely when that happens. So try to avoid having that happen. Don't take a break from the disc board. Don't take a break from the quizzes. The students who do that tend to not do as well, even though they might be committed in other ways. It suggests to the professor that you've just taken a break from the course for a few weeks, and that can not help the grade. Okay, so be aware of that and avoid it. Okay, then we move on to the papers, which I think are best, a description of which I think is best left for a later time. This 1 1/2 page assignment due typically at the end of a week, okay, of the week, those 2 weeks in which they are due. Those 2 assignments, you'll get plenty of advance notice and you'll get prompts and whatnot, right? That will appear in a timely fashion so that you can get those done and get them done well. Those are worth 10%. Now that's all together, so it's 5% apiece. So yeah, the number 4, the squib and squib plus. Never mind about that language right now, that nomenclature, and never mind about exactly what this is all about, this paper. I will tell you this much about it. There's a pretty good chance this semester again, I'm going to see how it goes. There's a pretty good chance that again, the way this will work is those, the squib as well as the squib plus will be based upon one of those 1 to 1 1/2 page assignments due on Saturday or Sunday night. Okay, based upon number 3. You'll choose one of those 2 and develop it into a squib, and then develop the squib itself into a squib plus. That's what we've done in previous semesters, and it seems salutary. Okay, so we may do it again. I've got a couple of ideas up my sleeve this semester in the world of AI, right, which is bedeviling a lot of us. There may be some things that we do that are a little bit different. So we will see. So, but again, you'll get plenty of advance notice about the squib as well as the squib plus, and let's leave it at that for now. And then we have a midterm examination, okay, which is basically an essay exam, short answer, longer answer, and I'll explain as it gets closer. It will be based upon, okay, these micro lecture videos that I'll be putting out that you will see every week. I'll ask you to watch a little video. They tend to be short, maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and they tend to be pithy, okay? I try not to waste your time on these things. It's not a lot of kidding around on these micro lectures, and I'll be going back to some of the stuff that you guys say in your discussion board participation and offering a lot of praise for praiseworthy moments in those discussion boards. So you really want to watch these because I'll probably be talking about you and how wonderful you are, okay? So keep your eyes out for those as well. Another reason you want to watch them is not vanity, but necessity, because as I said, the midterm examination as well as the final examination will be based upon them, right? So I will be assuming that you have seen those videos and know what they contain when I write up my midterm examination questions as well as the final examination questions. Okay, so if, again, you have any questions, let me know, but let's move on. Okay, here's a copy of that granular modular weekly schedule as opposed to the schematic schedule, which you can find in the information drawer. It will be obvious. I'm not even going to go over the schematic schedule in this video because it's so obvious what it's all about. And it's more like what you're used to seeing when you look at a schedule. This, however, this granular schedule, as I'll typically be shortening its title to, is pretty self-explanatory, I think, as well. But let's just quickly go over it. You'll see, I've got these headings up top. You get one of these at the opening of every module, which will be roughly every week, posted on Friday, typically, for the following week. So posted at the same time or roughly the same time as I begin posting some of the discussion prompts or the discussion board for the following week, okay? So this is our first one. I'm calling it the intro pre-module. If you look over there in the left-hand space there of titles, right? And so on the left, as I say, intro pre-module, what is it? Weeks 1 and 2, 117 to 126. And here's the schedule for those 2 weeks. I tend to highlight over there on the left the big readings for the week. In this case, it's 2 plays, Antigone and Trifles, right? If you look to the right, topics to read / watch. Then all the way over on the right, right column, learning activities and assessments. You'll see how these break down on the logic of an items belonging in one column as opposed to the other. Okay? Friday, that's this coming Friday, that's tomorrow, 1:19 at noon, you will see, as I list at the top there, as I note, the discussion questions for next week begin to be posted. Blackboard discussions board. You'll see that. That's easy to find. It's actually at the bottom of the module. Okay? So it's in the same folder as the module. You'll be able to find it. Just open up the module subdrawer, okay, and which is positioned. Each module will have a folder that sits out on par with the information folder that includes all the information for at that sort of level of embedment, which is just one step down, right? Once you open up content. So you open up content, you'll see, invariably, you will see the, one of the first two items in the list is always going to be information. I will probably knock information down typically and put it right behind whatever module we happen to have for that week. I haven't done it for this week. What you find is the module is number 2 in the list, and that's all you have in your content drawer. But the module, you open it up, and it will feature, first of all, what you're now looking at. And then at the bottom of the module, you will see the discussion questions for that week, which will be posted. Okay? So you just go and take a look at those discussion questions, which I'll be posting on, as I say, beginning on Friday at noon of most weeks. Now, this coming week, right, for this coming week, tomorrow by noon, you will see these discussion questions posted. To tell you the truth, I may even post them tonight. But the deadline for my beginning to at least post them, which means at least one will be posted, usually by Friday noon of the Friday before the week in question, the next week, which is what the granular module schedule will be all about, that next week, okay, which will also be posted on Friday. This one is posted a little bit early, right, because it covers this week as well, so maybe you can say it's posted a little bit late, but normally by Friday for the week after. Now, as I say, all questions will be posted, all discussion questions will be posted typically by the Sunday following that Friday, so that you have the whole discussion board intact and you can make your most informed choice, right, by 5 p.m. on the Sunday in question. In this case, it's the 21st of January, right, this coming Sunday. I'm going to post all the questions on Friday at noon, so you won't have to wait around for any of them. But that's the point is I'm giving myself a deadline to have everything out for you invariably by that Sunday at 5 p.m. That doesn't mean you won't have them all out for you earlier. It just means that I will certainly do so, have them all posted by that Sunday at 5 p.m. Okay? So that's what that's all about. The very first item. Drop down to the next one. What I'd like you to do is Sunday by 1:21, when the questions come out, why don't you have Antigone read instead of waiting until after the questions come out and then reading Antigone? And I go ahead and give you a couple of little links to some backup Antigones, backup copies of Antigone if you don't yet have the Norton. Okay, I know a bunch of you went out and bought it already, but if you haven't and you're still trying to get it, you're having a little difficulty procuring it, it's not showing up, you could always go and get, or go and, copy these, copy these links here into your browser, and they should give you the Fagles translation, which is different from the one in Norton, which is, by the way, perfectly fine, and in fact, even kind of cool, that will have a couple of different translations being talked about, because what it can do is introduce the very question of translation. So we'll see whether that happens. It has happened in previous classes, and it's been very edifying when it has happened, and very salutary. Okay, so that's what that's all about. Read Antigone by Sunday at 5 o'clock. That's more of like a prompt to have it read so that you can answer the questions. You're not going to be quizzed or tested on whether you've read it by 5 p.m. You're going to be quizzed and tested, okay, later in the week, but not Sunday at 5 p.m. So that's just a prompt to get it read by then if you want everything to go smoothly for yourself. Also have read by 5 p.m. if you want everything to go smoothly for yourself. The extra readings that I will have, and every week I'll have a few of these, right? Several of them typically. Here, there's some poorly copied. I'm going to have to recopy them. Maybe you've noticed them. But they just didn't copy very well. And so I'm going to have to redo them. But copies of this material from the Norton Normally, I would just assign the pages in the Norton. I might even not say the pages. I might just give you the titles and let you find them in the different editions, whatever edition you happen to have. But in this case, I can't be sure that everybody already has a copy of the Norton. Again, go and get it as soon as you can, but you may not have it. So I've given you copies for this week. Um, Once again, I'm gonna repost that material because I had to look at it earlier. I thought it wasn't that bad, and then I looked at it again. And I said, nah, there's part of that is not that legible. So I will repost that probably very soon. Then read the Mark Edmondson essay, which is a wonderful little essay on this question of the humanities. And then read through, which basically means skip around in as you see fit, but definitely read the italicized portions of the Matthew Arnold essay, and you'll see how close it is to what the Edmondson essay has to say, even though the Arnold essay was written 150 years ago. It's pretty amazing um, how much these questions have been, how long these questions have been with us, and how much the better answers to these questions remain the same. So have a look at that material, get it read. Then by Sunday at 11:30, okay, watch. This is a little bit of a mind teaser here. Watch this video. Well, you're watching it right now, aren't you? So I think you're going to have that, provided it's not Sunday after 11:30 p.m. You should have it. You should have it read, right? Um, and it should be available by 5 p.m. Today, which is the 18th. So it's actually, I'm about to post it here as soon as I get done with it. I'm doing it here early Thursday afternoon, right? So again, a little weird meta commentary on material that is sort of superfluous because you wouldn't be here if you didn't know about this. Then I want you to look over in the right-hand column. See how there's a space between Sunday 1:21, 11:30 p.m. Then I have something over there on the right, and I have it there, and it's in this space that's left after Sunday 1:21, 11:30 p.m. before we get to Wednesday 1:24, 1:59 p.m. in the left-hand column. I've got this thing over there on the right. Sunday 1:29, 1:21 midnight, finished the first quiz. Do you see where it's positioning? Why it's positioning is where it is. This is intended to give you a sense of the sequence, right? You do all these things in the left-hand column. Then there's something over there that's an actual assessment or learning activity. In this case, it's an assessment that is due just after the 11:30 p.m. watching of the introductory lecture at the latest. Again, I hope you're watching this today, Thursday, or tomorrow, Friday. But you do, after you get everything read by 5 p.m., you have to take the quiz, right? The quiz is due that night at midnight. Sunday 1:21 midnight, finish the first quiz. Now the quiz, you're given a half an hour to do the quiz. So that means you want to begin it by 11:30 p.m. And it is timed. And after a half an hour, it goes away. Okay, so you only have 30 minutes to complete it. You can't start it and then stop the clock and go back to it. So you can't start the quiz, which I'm going to post. Where do I tell you? Do I tell you when I'm posting it? I will certainly be posting it long before. Usually I will tell you when it's posted, or I'll tell you when I'll be posting it. I don't see that I've done that here, but often I will be. Oh yeah, I do say it. At the bottom of the paragraph, the quiz will be available Saturday 1:20 by 5 p.m. It's going to probably be available a lot earlier than that, but it certainly will be available at the latest on Saturday by 5 o'clock. Okay, and then I'll give you the whole day, the whole evening Saturday, and the whole day Sunday until midnight to get it done. So it is due at 11:30, but the point is you can't like open it up, see what's on the quiz on Saturday, and then stop the clock and go back and take it on Sunday. You can't do that. You can't do that on Sunday either. Once it starts, it just goes for half an hour and it auto submits at the end of 30 minutes. Okay, so be aware of that and don't overlook that reality. Okay, because again, I can't give a makeup for quizzes because somebody made a mistake along those lines. You have to understand that before you take the first quiz. And again, if you have any questions about that, be sure to be in touch with me. If you don't know what I'm talking about, see, there are different ways that these quizzes can work. One of them is they auto submit after a certain number of minutes. Again, you can't stop the clock and go and read like that, just that section that I've asked you about. You have to do it under a little bit of time pressure. That's just a necessary evil of making the quizzes authentic as opposed to something that you could complete without even reading the work. You have to know the work pretty well. That's why I'm saying you better read it before you take the quiz. You got to know the work pretty well before you can do well on one of these quizzes, because you don't have time, if you don't know anything about the work, you don't have time to go and find like the passage I might be asking you about, right? You'd have to, it would take hours to do that, wouldn't it, in some cases? So, or certainly a lengthy period of time that is not made available in the quiz itself. So you want to make sure that you have the play, in this case, the play or whatever the work is for that week, you want to make sure it's read and read thoroughly and carefully before you sit down and do the quiz. Okay? So again, that takes care of this portion of the granular modular weekly schedule. You will see that this is a 2-week schedule. So I push forward to Wednesday over there in the left-hand column. And what you see is by Wednesday at 1:59 p.m., I want you to read Glaspell's Trifles. That is, have it all read and finish it. Finish the play by Wednesday at 2 p.m. Then over there in the right-hand column, we begin the discussion board, right? Which is based upon your having read both Glaspell and Sophocles. Sophocles' Antigone and Glaspell's Trifles. By Wednesday, 1:24 at 5 p.m., your first discussion answer response is due, right? And again, this should be a substantial paragraph that is well written, makes claims, and supports its claims by citing and quoting textual evidence. And what you'll see is, if you drop down, you'll see by Friday, 1:26 at 5 p.m., that's when your fellow student's answer response, a comment on your fellow student's answer response is due, right? By 5 p.m. on Friday. Now, in between those two, so remember what I said earlier about the rhythm of the week being 2 responses or 2 discussion board paragraphs. The first one is a discussion answer response. The second one is a discussion comment, a comment on a fellow student's answer response. This coming week, we don't have one due like today or tomorrow, but next week is when it starts. And the first part of the 2, the first one of the 2, which is the answer response, is due on Wednesday by 5 p.m. And then that's the answer response. And then the comment on a fellow student's answer response is due on Friday. Okay? And I include in the instructions that you will find on the discussion board itself, right? In that little subdrawer, you will see instructions. You will see, a repetition of some of this business that I've been saying about substantive and substantial and all the rest. So be sure to read that before you complete your first discussion answer response or your first comment. Okay, now in between those 2 is a second quiz. And indeed, yeah, you're going to feel early on like, wow, Professor May is really quizzing the heck out of us. Yeah, I kind of am early on. I want to get the rhythm established. So your second quiz is, in fact, next Thursday, a week from today. So by this time, well, by midnight, this day, next week, you're going to have taken your first 2 quizzes. All right? So, which is kind of cool. That means we're going to get 2 of them out of the way up front when you're fresh and ready to read and ready to go to work, right? Bored with sitting around, as I know you are, right? We all are at this particular time of our January, after all that time off over the holiday. So the second quiz is due a week again from midnight today on the 25th, okay, 7 days from today. Also to be found, as you will see, in the assessments drawer. And I'll be sending you a message, before the first quiz, before every quiz, reminding you where to find these quizzes, okay? And in fact, when the quiz is posted, it will send you a prompt, and the prompt might even have a link in it. So it shouldn't be difficult finding these on the Blackboard website. So again, that second quiz, the second quiz is one that's on trifles, not Antigone. The first one is on Antigone. And I want you to bear this in mind. The quizzes will always be directed to the material for that week, the material on that module, and will not cover material from previous modules on which you will have already been quizzed, except in very special cases, which I will point out, right? So I hope that's a little reassuring as well. So that takes care of everything that is due for that week. You will see, though, that there's everything in the way of learning activities and assessments, but there's one final thing. On a Saturday of that week, I will have posted, probably on the Friday before, that same Friday in which you have your comment due, I will have posted a second video PowerPoint, for this particular module. So there's going to be a second one of these micro lecture videos. This is going to be the first real micro lecture, because this one is not much of a lecture, is it? It's more just a monologue on what's required of you this semester. So we'll have a real micro lecture here for the second one, which is due, or rather, I would like you to see it, like you to watch it by Saturday end of day. And again, that's just a convenient way of my saying to keep things convenient for yourself and avoid falling behind. Don't put that off, but get it done by the end of the week, next week. And that way you are fresh and can start on the Sunday of the following week, in which case, if you look over there to the right, we move on to module one, the first module proper. Okay? So that's what that's all about. Now, again, do you have any questions about any of this? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You're all aces at this point at figuring out course routines for remotely taught courses. In the aftermath of the COVID experience, I think we all figured this out. So my guess is you're not going to have any difficulty understanding what it is that's being asked of you. It's a little bit of a complicated kind of sequence every week, but at the same time, it's a routine that once you get into it, you're going to find it very natural indeed. You do a lot of reading at the early part of the week, answer some discussion questions. You got a comment coming a little later, and somewhere in there, you'll take a quiz. Okay? And there'll be a video too to watch. So that'll be the routine every week. It's going to keep you busy, but not ridiculously. And there's no busy work. Okay? I avoid that. I want it all to be salutary. I want it all to be edifying. So, be assured that I will be taking your time into consideration. For example, when I make up these videos, I try to keep them brief. I have found that a student at the end of a 2-week period of time, or end of a week, where there's been a quiz, there's been all this reading, there's been a discussion board, had to write up an answer, had to write up a comment, then you have like a 90-minute micro lecture. No way. It's just too much. So I try to keep them brief, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Some of them will be a little bit longer, but I think they'll be edifying. And when they are a little bit longer, I'll try to make it maybe a little easier elsewhere during that week and take into account that, you are mortals, right? We professors have to remember that. Our students are, mortals who have 5 classes, not just our class. It's very easy to forget that for the professorial sort, right? So again, welcome to the class. I've got one more panel ahead of me here. This is the time to move to it. Yeah, so we're back to the Kafka Metamorphosis opera. Can you believe it? The Royal Opera House. Maybe we'll listen to that, a portion of it later on semester. Yeah, well, I'm going to let you go now. If you have any questions what to do next, let me know. My first response will be probably take a look at the pre-module, because you probably can figure it out. I'm guessing that most of you are not going to have a lot of difficulty, negotiating your way through and determining what it is that's being asked of you. So take a good look at it now before you send me a message, but don't hesitate to send me a message if one persists beyond a close look at the information that's been set up for you, okay? I'm looking forward to a great semester with you all, and as you can tell, I'm very excited about the possibility of reading Kafka with you and sharing this extraordinary work of 20th century literature with you.